But you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes.
So that's Trump saying that he liked to inspect the girls changing in the pageants that he owns. In 2002, Donald Trump owned the Miss Teen USA pageant. Now, this is what Donald Trump said about Epstein in 2002. "I've known Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years. He's a terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. He's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life." Donald Trump is owning the Miss Teen USA pageant at that time and liking to inspect the girls as they change, while Epstein was in the process of trafficking girls. So Trump purchased the Miss USA pageant in 1996. So, and according to the New Yorker article, Trump says that he was close personal friends in 2002 with Epstein for the past 15 years. So that means all the time that Trump owned the Miss USA pageant, Trump was friends with Epstein. Epstein also said in his phone interview that he and Trump were closest friends, of course, during the time that Donald Trump owned the Miss USA pageant. Now, Trump says on the Howard Stern show that, hey, I have these privileges, right? I have privileges because I own them. I can inspect them. I can look at the women and all that stuff, right? He has these privileges. The big question is, what did his friend have during that time? His friend Epstein. Because in 2002, Trump expands his Miss USA ownership, and he buys the Miss Teen USA pageant. While being close personal friends of the most notorious sex trafficker of teenage girls in history. So Trump is friends with the most notorious sex trafficker of teenage girls in 2002. And he maintains this relationship until 2007, 2008, which happens to be about the time where Epstein is about to get busted. But what was never really investigated, which is probably why Trump was working with the authorities, probably to keep them away from the big question, the question that has never truly been answered, and that really should. And it's the biggest scandal in Miss Teen USA history, at least it should be, because their owner was close personal friends and partied with, and according to some of the girls, the Epstein victims, that Trump was a client and paid for sessions with them to fulfill certain fantasies, like that of what Katie Johnson describes. This should be the biggest scandal in beauty contestant history, and should be ruthlessly examined as to whether or not the owner of Miss Teen USA, Miss USA, or Miss Universe pageants, should they be owned by people who are alleged to be sex traffickers of underage girls, or sex traffickers in general? Because you have to think of Epstein's world, all right? So Epstein has his really good friend, Donald Trump, who parties with him, who appears, at least by the statements from the girls, is a really valuable client. So not only is that, so what does Epstein need more than anything? Victims. Because eventually the victims become aware that the promises that he's making, that he's going to make them famous and all this stuff, is just total bull. That he's not going to make them famous. That they're, in his eyes, property. So a person who's a sex trafficker, sitting next to his very good friend, putting his arm around him, saying, hey, yeah, you're my buddy, man, but damn, those girls look good. That teenager, this is her application. This is what she says, what she likes, what she dislikes, her father, her family history. Maybe during the interview, maybe you learn a little bit more, have a little discussion, find out more about these girls and which ones are susceptible to trafficking and which ones aren't. Because you don't necessarily have a full psychological profile of the girls, but you have literally an application and interviews that teach Epstein and his people how to reach out to them. And that should be looked into. The Hollywood community that participated in the Miss Teen USA pageants from 2002 to 2008 should be asking themselves a very specific question. Did anyone in the Epstein organization gain access to those applications? Or were they ever able to sit down in those interview processes, or when you were at maybe the Trump offices when they were looking at the girls and reviewing the girls? The question is, was anyone connected to the Epstein organization sitting there with the friend that both Epstein and Donald Trump said existed? Were they friends just sitting there? Because Epstein never looked at a teenage girl as a good girl. It's property. He must have felt like a Roman emperor having presented in front of him the slaves that he could sell and that he could make money with. It's probably what was sitting in his twisted mind. We really need to get to the bottom of this. Why was the owner of the Miss Teen USA pageant from 2002 to 2008, why was he close personal friends with the most notorious sex trafficker of teenage girls in American history? That is the question that needs to be answered. So please like, share, and comment. Again, the owner of the Miss Teen USA pageant from 2002 till about 2007, 2008 was close personal friends with Epstein. If you are a girl who participated in the Miss Teen USA pageant, we need to have these discussions. If you were an investor, if you were one of the actors or any of the people connected to that event, you need to come out and try to sit there and say, what did Epstein do? What information about those girls were being exploited? So please, like, share, comment. Thank you.